Welcome to our webinar on about AI search and the impact of verified reviews in AEO. I am the CPO at Feefo, Thorikyo, and this morning I am joined by Rice Tong, Product Marketing Manager, focusing on AI search and intelligence from Similarweb, and Ruth Williams, Brand Director at Wilmington PLC. As search shifts towards AI-generated recommendations, the way consumers discover businesses is changing fast. In this webinar, we're going to cover how AI search works, trusted data, and AI search visibility. We'll discuss a real-world case study and provide some recommendations and practical tips. We have saved some time for a Q&A session as well, so if you think of any questions as we go through the deck, feel free to drop them in the chat below. And then we'll wrap up with some key takeaways and a checklist because we want to make this really actionable and practical for you. So first, I'm going to hand over to Rice Tong from Similarweb, who will be able to take us through how AI search actually works.
Thank you so much, Thora. Nice to meet you all again. I'm Rise from Similarweb, and I'm focusing on the AI search intelligence product within the company. Really happy to be here joining everyone. First of all, I wanted to start this conversation with the most basic question: what actually is AI search, and why is everyone talking about it? So on the left-hand side, you can see a very classic Google search. Someone types in Italian restaurant, they get back a list of links. Now you may also see a few ads, maybe a map, etc. But the user has to do the work of clicking through, comparing, deciding on options. On the right-hand side, something is fundamentally different. Someone is asking ChatGPT, I'm organizing a birthday dinner. Can you suggest good Italian restaurants near London, Soho? It's a very contextual, very specific question. And instead of links, they get an answer with specific restaurants, a map rated by vibe and food quality, probably also taking into the context of what the user likes. The AI has done the research, has made the shortlist, and then it presented a recommendation for the user. And that shift from returning links to returning answers is the entire reason we're here today. Because in the old world, we all competed for clicks. We want us to rank high enough for someone to choose our link over the nine others on the page. And in the new world, we're all competing to be visible in the answer and to be recommended by AI. Next slide, please. And before we get into the how, I wanted us to take a moment on the scale of what's happening. So this is Similarweb data on AI platform growth across web and app in the US over the past year-on-year growth. And the numbers are pretty hard to ignore. As you can see, web visits to AI platforms has grown 80%, more than 82% year-on-year, from 4.6 billion to 8.3 billion. And app downloads has grown over 320%, from 634 million to 2.7 billion. So people are not just visiting AI platforms, they're also downloading the app, they're using it day to day, it's on their phone, and it's become part of their daily routine. Next slide, please. And we wanted to know what people are actually doing on these AI platforms, and therefore Similarweb has recently done a study on this. And our data shows that users are now more keen to go to AI to do their early research when they are purchasing something. So what this means is in the past, you go to Google, you like search for keywords, you look at different results to compare and make the decision on shortlisting brands. Whereas now AI does the job for you. You go to AI, ask a question, and you kind of like learn what options are out there. AI presents you with recommendation, and the brands that come up from AI is then become shortlisted by the user, and they go back to the search engine and actually complete the transactional task. So that means the brands that come up from AI during this early process actually heavily impacts the purchase journey after. Next slide, please. So I wanted to go into a bit more details into how AI actually makes that recommendation. And what might shock you is that actually by the time user sees an AI answer, your brand has already been evaluated by AI. And we can call that the perception layer. Because AI is not just retrieving information. It's almost acting as like a researcher on behalf of the user to gather, to filter and surface the most credible information they can find online. So let's look at this process, which we called as the retrieval augmented generation process. So what it does is first it understands, interprets the user's intent and learn what the user is actually asking about. And it's going beyond just keyword matching. It's understanding the real intent of the user. And then it does two things. One, either it recalls and draws on its own training data, everything that is has learned previously, or it goes out into the web and find the most relevant information online from trusted data sources. And then what happens is the synthesis stage, which is the most important stage, where the model doesn't just combine information, it actually weighs and determines what is being shown in the answer. And after that, it presents the recommendation to the user. And therefore, there is a perception layer in there during the process where AI determines whether the brand is worth showing based on the data sources it's from. Next slide. So credibility now is a new ranking signal because AI is determining what is being shown. And so the next question is what actually influences that decision. So a lot of people are focusing on its own content, the content that they do themselves, blog posts that they put out, their website, etc., which is still a key role in building up that credibility for your brand. But AI also goes out to search for other types of content to validate that brand perception. We see career fan outs from AI specifying for elements of trust, looking for reviews, accreditation online, looking for directories, places like Reddit and Quora forums, etc., where your brand has to be present in order to build trust because AI perceives that as real people, real conversations happening online, and it uses that information in synthesizing the right answer for the user. Next slide. So I wanted to go back into more of like how AI presents an answer and take it from here. So on the left-hand side, you can see all the brands that are mentioned in the answer, like Decathlon, Under Armour, etc. And on the right-hand side, you can see the citation sources, which is basically where this information is being based on. So AI is making a judgment call about which brands are being deserved to be in that answer, and is building that based on the online resources that they find. And when they recommend Under Armour, is actually not just taking information from Under Armour itself, it's actually referring to Reddit conversations in this case. And so therefore we can see that third-party content, community content, real people talking about their experiences is actually really important for AI to take into consideration on whether to surface your brand at all. Next slide, please. And apart from that, we also have a bit of information data that we have like looked at in Similarweb, and it's Similarweb's own data, so I can speak to this. So what you're looking at here is top cited domains in finance conversations on ChatGPT in February 2026. These are the sources that AI is actually pulling from when someone's asking a finance question. So you can see 8 out of top 10 most cited sources are all third-party domains. It's a variety of publishers, UGC, social media, review platforms, etc. Meaning that when someone's asking a question like, what is the best saving account in the UK? It's actually not just referring to the banks, to the financial institution. It's also taking a lot into account, like what's actually being discussed online, for example, on Reddit. So another example that I have, next slide please, is on travel conversations. So when someone is asking a travel question, it's very often drawing its content from like TripAdvisor, Wikipedia, Reddit, etc., in order to answer the question that the user is asking. Like obviously we can see a few like of the brand-owned websites as well, like Booking, Skyscanner, and Expedia. But you can see that the review sites and forums and knowledge base is actually owning a lot more as a citation influence. So this gives you a very concrete idea in like different industries how this type of like third-party content is actually really important for brands to consider and to build their presence in AI. So here I'd like to pass back to Thora to talk about what AI perceives as trust signals and dig a little bit deeper into what actually built that credible presence for your brand.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so I'm going to pick up on, what are the trust signals in AI? And specifically, how does AI decide who to recommend and what to surface? And how does it build confidence through those trust signals? And for us at Feefo, we're really focused on how customer reviews, ratings, and feedback provide those vital trust signals. to AI, just as they would to humans. So if you think about as you're building confidence in a brand, in products, in a company, in services, you're going to look for those reviews. That is just as important when it comes to AI and search. AI is looking for UGC, that's user generated content, which includes the verbatim text, but also includes, photos and videos to build up that sense of confidence about a company and the products and services that they're selling. And reviews and feedback build trust signals in four different ways. So the first one is around provenance. So is the feedback verified and from a real source? Authenticity matters. AI is looking for genuine customer feedback. The next one is recency. So is the review current? AI places more value on current and fresh customer feedback. So you should be looking to feed a steady stream of fresh customer review content onto your site. The next is around consistency and quality. So, is your feedback consistent across multiple sites? Is it of a high quality? And by high quality, what I mean is it full of real customer insights about the products or services, not just generic statements? Does it actually answer the question that's been asked of AI? So, someone will have typed in a very specific prompt. And the more detailed that your feedback is, the more likely it is to match that question that's been asked by a customer. Which leads me on to clarity and relevance. Is the review very clearly connected to the specific product or service? Is it signposted well where it's been placed on the buyer journey, for example? Is it at the right place? And is the technical implementation of that clearly pointing that that feedback is about that specific product or service? So our reviews and ratings are structured so that AI engines, as well as humans and search engines, can easily read, interpret, and cite them. At Feefo, we build layers of trust using different tools and functionality. And so I'm going to take you through a few of them today. The first one is widgets. So these are our on-site widgets that use JavaScript rendered schema on your brand site. It connects the product or service directly to the feedback in a machine readable way. So traditional review sites often post the reviews kind of somewhere else, and AI is forced to go and connect the dots essentially. But if you have proper technical implementation, it treats the product and the review as one coherent item. So, in plain English, what it means is that the reviews are readable by AI and it's clear what they actually refer to. We have dedicated client pages. So these are standalone product pages that provide a stable reference point for AI to cross-reference your reputation. Then media galleries. Modern LLMs now can see customer photos. So if you combine customer photos and videos with the feedback, reviews, and ratings, it adds to that authenticity of a genuine experience. And AI being able to interpret and understand photos or videos is often now referred to as multimodal AI. The next function to consider is social sharing. So, sharing reviews on social media, quoting customer feedback, and reposting actual customer experiences extend your brand presence and build on that all important UGC that AI is looking for. TSAs. So every year we launch our Trusted Service Awards in the tail end of January. And what these Trusted Service Awards do is they demonstrate a long-standing commitment to high service standards. And that builds confidence in the picture that AI is building about your brand and your company. And finally, and I would argue most important is actually using your feedback for insights. So use the feedback to influence what your marketing strategy is. Feedback helps you understand what your customer pain points are and uncover where you're performing well in certain products or areas. You should then use that insight to update your product descriptions, update your how-to guides or your Q&As, and use the language that customers are actually putting into their feedback. Use that language and themes on your promotions and your marketing because that's what's likely for them to type into their prompts. These various layers build up a picture for AI about your brand. And on that point, we've got Ruth Williams here from Wilmington PLC, who's going to talk through a real life case study using Astutus. So over to you, Ruth.
Thank you, Thora. And wow, both of you, what excellent advice. I'm really excited to be part of today's webinar. And what I'd like to do in the next few minutes is walk you through how we interpret that wonderful advice that you've just given and how we practically use that in AI reviews at Wilmington for AI visibility. Now, for context, who are Wilmington? Well, we're a brand group. Wilmington PLC has multiple specialist brands, and each of those brands need its own review footprint. One of our brands, Astutus, has a very strong Feefo profile. We're super proud to have won one of your Trusted Service Awards. And we think that the way that we use that strategy really gives us an edge in the marketplace. But let me be really crystal clear. Our quest, if you like, for verified reviews is totally about that open dialogue with our customer. The relationship we have with our customers is like a telephone. It's really not a megaphone. But the byproduct of our verified reviews is that they are trusted third-party content. And as we've just heard from Rice, it's the very thing AI models are actively looking for. They give AI the social proof. I don't know if I'm still allowed to do that. I don't know if that is still cool. Please answers in the chat. Now look, reviews give AI the proof it needs to recommend the Astutus brand. So it's why we always have the hashtag social proof rocks. That's right, isn't it? So how does that practically look like for our customers and for our brand? Well, when customers leave reviews for our brands that mention specific products, those details become searchable signals that match real user queries in AI tools. And I'll let you into a little secret. There are oodles of competitors out there who rely only on unverified reviews, or even worse, they don't actively manage their review presence. And that means that they're handing brands like ours, like yours, a meaningful GEO advantage, and they're doing that right now. I believe the window to lead is wide open and we need to pounce. So folks, today is Tuesday. What is a zero cost GEO activity you can implement right now and you can implement it by Friday? Well, I believe there are around 5 really easy tasks that your brand can do today that will give you the leading edge, will give you some competitive advantage. So stay tuned. Number 1, please don't have the mindset that you're just collecting reviews for GEO. It's not about collecting reviews just for the sake of it. It's about what you do with them. And at Wilmington and at Astutus, we embed Feefo widgets on all of our course page, our landing pages. Where our customer is at, that's where you'll find our verified review badge. And also on that note, we respond to reviews publicly in real time. We're not waiting till the end of the month. And actually, you might be surprised to know that we even answer reviews on Christmas Day. And I'm not suggesting you do the same, but real-time review answer is definitely the ticket. And I can tell you at Wilmington and at the Astutus, we often have, as a board of directors, we answer those reviews ourselves because there's nothing like knowing your own customer. We share our reviews actually on socials. We call it Feedback Friday. I don't know if any of you have got the same, but I'd love to hear. So please do leave that in the chat. So number 2, review responses matter. As I said, when you reply to a Feefo review, you're adding keyword-rich, fresh content to a trusted third-party page. And as we've learned today, it's content that AI tools are already crawling and citing. Number 3, look at what your reviewers say naturally. Those phrases are the language your audience are using, and that's the language AI search will pick up on. Use that language in your content. And lastly, these reviews are free user-generated content on a trusted platform that AI is already reading. These are gold for AI visibility signals. But not only that, they're also terrific for brand credibility. So I hope some of those tips will help you. Those are my top tips. Now back over to the studio, back over to you, Thora.
Thank you, Ruth. And I love hearing about how you have embedded reviews and the importance of your customer experience into the heart of the business. I think that's so important and, couldn't be a better experience for customers to know that their voice matters so much. So thank you for sharing that.
My
Um,
pleasure.
I think, I mean, I learned a lot both from Ruth and from Rice. And I also think, there's lots of different webinars happening about AI search. And we wanted to make this really practical. And so that anyone who's taken time to listen to us today gets some recommendations that they can easily go away with. So I'm just going to do a little recap on some of the topics that we've covered, and then we can launch into a Q&A session. So the first is around authentic reviews. I think both Ruth and Rice have commented on the importance of real, authentic, and verified reviews for various reasons, but they will impact and help your AI search as well. The next one is to audit your data. Ensure that your reviews are actually machine readable. And so Feefo widgets and client pages use what's called structured schema to ensure that AIs can read, interpret, and cite the reviews. The next point is around recency. It's not a one-hit wonder, unfortunately. You've got to ensure that you're collecting reviews all the time. And the best way to do that is to have an automated process with ongoing campaign management. Then around 360 feedback. So you want to be sure that you're collecting feedback on the full customer journey, displaying relevant reviews at the right point on your website. And that counts for both services and products. And that's going to help with your relevance and clarity as well. The next, and really, I think this is what hammered home from what Rice was talking about, which is all about AI visibility. You need to be tracking your citation influence and using an AI visibility tool like Similarweb to embed that KPI into your business. And that will allow you to really embrace AEO. Next is around media. Encourage your customers to upload photos and videos to get that multimodal trust signals going. A picture speaks 1,000 words. Then think about amplifying your voice. Once you've got that feedback, how can you use it across channels, on your social media, on your blogs, on your PDP, on your how-to guides? And lastly, even if you don't do the 365 days, like Ruth mentioned, replying to your reviews really does matter. It matters, to be honest, it matters for customers, right? To feel like they've been heard, they've bothered to give you that feedback. But also, it does allow you to insert some keywords and phrases into that content that is being read and cited online. So, another important point there. So, I think I can see that we've been getting lots of questions coming in. And so we can launch into a bit of a Q&A session. So bear with us. We've got lots of questions coming in. So one of the first ones that I'm seeing is around um, how can we find earned or trusted sources that are cited most commonly for your industry? So I think perhaps Rice, you want to pick that up on the kind of tools that are available?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Dora. So on finding out the earned and trusted sources for your industry, most importantly, you need to have the tool to track that. And it's really different for each industry, different for each website. And so, for example, if you were using Similarweb's AI search intelligence tool, what you can do is to see what domains are being cited in AI responses the most for your specific categories or for the topics that you're interested in. And those cited sources actually shifts every day. So it's important to track that over time and see whether it's trending up or down and whether there are new sources that are appearing, etc. So using a good tracking tool can review that for you and also keep you updated on what's actually happening with the AI algorithm. So.
That's great. Thank you. And that also lends itself into the next question that I'm after spotting, which is how do I even know if my brand is showing up in AI answers?
Yeah, so also just on that, like it's very similarly, you need to have a good tracking tool for that. And using AI visibility tracking tool, you can have an idea of your brand visibility score, which is now a very important metric that you need to keep track of. Like as I mentioned, there's no clicks that is happening in AI most of the time. There are some clicks on cited sources, but people do conversations in AI and they look at the answer and they probably go elsewhere and continue with their research journey. So knowing that your brand is visible in AI is very important, and keeping track of that is also very important. So using the right tool for that would be crucial to know whether your brand is visible or not.
Great, thank you. Lots of good questions in here. I spotted one question, which is, how can this be applied to the B2B industry? And is it, more important for B2C versus B2B? I think this is a really good point, actually. It comes up quite a bit. So it's just as important for B2B, just as Roy spoke about. People are going to the likes of ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Gemini to do their early research. So if you can imagine, they're asking questions like, "Give me the top five service providers for X," for example. So that's where they're going to do that early research, and then they will go on to the more traditional searches to kind of actually interact with those businesses. So it's just as important for B2B to have an AEO strategy. And I would say also just as important to make sure that you're collecting that really important verified reviews that help you leverage all of that content and just learn about what your customers are actually searching for and care about. And I think, Ruth, the example that you talked us through, that's B2B. So would you echo that as well?
Absolutely. Wilmington and all of its composite brands are all B2B. And look, we H to H, right? Human to human, whether you work in a luxury, commodity market, whether you work in B2B, people search for products the same way, whether they're at the top of the funnel and then in discovery, or they're more high intent and they're towards the bottom of the funnel. They're using search for all parts of that funnel. So yes, visibility is key. And I would also say, just on the back of some of Royce's excellent advice there, what we also do around having tracking is so important, but we're also monitoring direct traffic. And you can see over the years that direct traffic is really, exploding because people are coming back a second time visitors to our website having had that AI review.
Great, thank you. I've spotted something here, which says, does replying to reviews actually help Gia, or is it just really about customer service? I think it's a good point. So the reviews, the replies itself, if you're using, the right widgets and the right tools where all of the replies are also readable from that structured schema that we mentioned before. So that's that kind of keyword structured schema. Then it means that yes, they're also reading the reviews. So that's important on various levels. It's obviously important to reply to consumers, as your baseline, as Rita said, human to human. But it does then become another source of content. So, it is, I think, important for you to consider what are you actually putting in your replies? How can you make sure that your replies are valuable, both to the person that you're replying to, but also maybe to answer similar questions or to insert some key phrases that will help customers get to the right answers for what they're looking for. So yes, review replies do impact GEO. They do get searched, and they will be interpreted by i.e. AEO, if you're using the right structured schema. Now, let's have a look and see. Um, do you see AI search replacing traditional SEO, or will brands need to optimize for both in parallel? That's a really interesting question. Um, Rice, do you have any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, happy to take this one because we actually did a research on this, and we actually see that 97% of ChatGPT users still use Google, And we see a lot of overlap in that. And as mentioned earlier in the webinar, people go to AI more for discovery purposes and they do early research, but then they still use Google when they know where to go, when they have narrowed down their choices. And Google is still the most dominant search engine right now. So we advise brands not to just focus on AEO or SEO. It's important to be optimizing for both and learning that sort of user journey in between so you can tailor your strategy throughout the whole purchase journey for users.
Thank you. That's great. I've spotted a question here, which I think is really interesting. And particularly, I work in products, so I work with lots of UI, UX designers. And I see a question here which asks, with emphasis on AI search and visibility and less on click-throughs, how important is the UX UI on your website? And I think that's a really interesting point. Um, I really like what Ruth said before about, primarily you're building for humans, I would say. So UX is still and should be extremely important. But now you're building for both, right? You're building for humans and for agents. So you want to make sure that your website, your experience, or anything online is optimized for both. So I would always say humans first, but agents and AI should be a factor in how you're designing your UX and your UI and also the content that you put on your site. Um, Now let's have a look. Oh, I spotted a question here about specifically around um, cherry picking reviews, or yes, cherry picking reviews. So I think that's important. Um, the the 360 feedback that I spoke about and making sure that you're getting a well-rounded picture of your customer feedback across all of your services and your products is really important. And I think the best way to do that and to ensure that you're not cherry picking reviews is to have an ongoing and automated review strategy and also campaign management. And that way that you can ensure that you're reaching all your customers, you're giving everybody that voice. And I think, 1-star reviews are just as important as 5-star reviews. They're important for learning about your business, getting the insights, and, developing your brand. So we would always say that you need to be getting feedback from everybody. Let's see, do we have any more questions? I think we've covered the most of the themes that I'm seeing. Although we might not have asked your specific question, I'm s- I'm seeing most of them being covered in what we've generally discussed, which is great. If there is any other questions that we see coming through, we will reply to you directly. We're also going to be sharing the slides with you afterwards. But on that note, I thought I would recap with some key takeaways and also give you something really practical to take away. So, um, the first thing is in terms of our key takeaways and key points, where I said it right at the top of the hour, which was be the answer, not just the link. So really important that you are developing a strategy to make sure that you're not just competing for clicks, but you're actually looking to show up in that perception layer, as she described. So credibility is vital. And what you're looking to build here is trust and confidence. And that is kind of your new ranking signal. So with that in mind, we've developed a little checklist here for you. So feel free to take out your phones, snap a photo, take a screenshot. We will be sharing these afterwards. But the idea is we wanted to give you really practical, easy steps that you could check off yourself this week and just see where you are in terms of your own AI search, AI visibility, and trusted data strategy. And so with that, I'll give you, say goodbye, say a massive thank you for your time. Huge thank you to Ruth and Rice for joining me this morning. And I'll leave you with this last point, which is that verified reviews are your competitive advantage. So if you need any help with your review strategy, collecting reviews, looking at verified reviews in particular, feel free to reach out to Feefo and we'll be happy to help. Thank you so much for joining me. Bye bye.